Hello and welcome back to the latest episode of the Master None podcast. I'm joined by the usuals tonight, Sam and Westy, both very energetic early on. Love to see it, guys.
We're just
Happy
happy that we didn't lose our
Thursday.
jobs after that terrible quiz.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry, the quiz was good. Our terrible performance in the quiz.
Lack of no real abuse, which I was very disappointed in. Shame to all the Twitter followers. So I even included their Twitter handles in it, and no abuse.
I was expecting a bit of backlash about it. Just kind of how much we talk about rugby, how much we thought we knew about rugby compared to how much we got right. It was pretty embarrassing.
Well, we're doing a general knowledge one next week, so don't worry, I'll be in the firing line after that. So, but as speaking of rugby knowledge, we've decided to pick a Lions match day squad.
I want to apologise now, lads, for suggesting. Yeah. I spent the last 2 days mulling over. I'm not sure if I'm happy with my team or I'm extremely disappointed with the players I had to leave out.
It's really tough. There's so many. I don't know. Like you could pick 3 or 4 teams. Like there's no bad team here. Let's just put that out there.
I get the O'Driscoll decision. I'm like Gatland. I'm sorry.
No.
Sorry for everything I ever said.
I get it.
I don't. I refuse to accept his apology. I'm done. But yeah,
I'm not even sure I'm finished. I still have like slashes and brackets and shit. Like,
well, I was saying, I've got like scribbles everywhere. I've got 2 or 3 names on a few of them, but
Sam's wall is like, one of those crime films where there's like, strings attached to everything. It's like, oh my God, Mario told you. So we're picked basically starting 15, and then we have our 8 substitutions. But Sam also included the wrinkle of the the wild card player.
Yeah, the bolter.
So he has to be basically a lesser known player and can have 0 caps or a couple of caps. But you would include him in the match day 23, more likely on the bench. But
yeah, I went with my bolter might be up for a bit of debate. I know I came up with it. I went with a bolter. He's only has 7 caps, but he's well known. So I have 2 backup ones just in case. So
mine has 0. Westy, what about you?
My bolters are pretty obvious. Fuck. Maybe I have to review this.
We'll see. Well, this is the thing.
I can check. I can put it on. Man, I've got so many brackets over here.
It's like the March Madness college bracket. Which one of the 64 will it be?
I don't know what that is.
It says Never mind. So look, we start with the front row. Sam, do you want to go first?
With the full front row, is it?
Give us your front 3, and then we'll all do our own.
Okay, so I am going with, and this is going to hurt a lot of people. I'm going with Sinclair instead of Furlong. So my front 3 is Rory Sutherland, Jamie George, and Kyle Sinclair. I like Rory Sutherland, Scottish. He's got a chance. I think he's good, and I wanted to include a few Scottish people. Now that I'm looking at my team, I think I included too many Scottish people.
I had this question as well.
But it was for one, it was between Mako and Sutherland, and I went with Sutherland because I don't believe Mako is going to be able to be on the pitch. Like the 2 Vinopolos are just crocked all the time nowadays. I think it's probably coming towards the end for them.
It's an interesting. I mean, it kind of depends on what you're going on, because Sutherland was probably one of the informed props in the Six Nations. So, I've made a few decisions on form. Like I've left out a few obvious people because they're not playing at the minute.
Yeah, that came to as well. Like
because you're like
Sutherland is sticking in the memory at the moment from the last Six Nations. I like him.
Yeah, he had a great Six Nations.
Jamie George, I think I didn't really have anyone to go up against him. I have. I'll get to my bench later, my backup hooker, and then Sinclair, I love him. I think what he is at the moment is what Furlong was when Furlong burst onto the scene. He's that athletic, hard running, always coming around the corner. And don't get me wrong, Furlong is brilliant. Having him in there any day of the week, but I went with Sinclair. I just prefer him as a player right now.
Obviously not any day of the week. It's a day of the week.
Not today.
You don't have him in.
Any other day of the week. But so Sutherland, Jamie George, and Sinclair.
And who's yours? Do you have substitutions, front row substitutions?
Yeah, my 3 front row substitutions are Mako, Cowan, Dickey, and Furlong. So I have Furlong and Mako in. It was 50-50 between the 2 of them, really. So I just picked kind of Sutherland and Sinclair because I like them. So Mako and Furlong are getting in there. And Cowan, Dickey, I think it was very close between Cowan, Dickey, and Jamie George. I think in the next year or 2, that England hooker spot is going to be completely up for debate as well.
Fair enough. Okay. I'll go next, Westy, leave you last. I'm going with Mako, Jamie George, and I've gone with Tadhg Furlong because I'm not a turncoat like you said.
I just get that listens, man.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've gone with Furlong. I think Furlong has still been an amazing player. I don't think he's going to slow down. If anything, I think he's going to get better. And I think the hooker position was kind of no one really stood out as to challenge Jamie George, especially from an Irish perspective. That no one yet.
Dave Heffernan should have been given his chance, though. Just saying.
Yeah, he was on my. No, he wasn't.
That's your poster, is it?
Yeah. Dave Heffernan. That would be amazing. And then Mako Vinopola. Yeah, I just still think that he's really good. And again, a year from now, who knows? But for the time being, I've gone with him. My subs are Kyle Sinclair. I went with Stuart McInally as my replacement hooker. And then Dylan Lewis is also my front row replacement. So that's my 3 subs. I think Dylan Lewis is really good, by the way. But Westy.
So it's not very shocking front row. I've gone with Vinopola, George, and Furlong. I think.
Does that mean we win?
So that's the official. I think first off, I think Jamie George has kind of crept up. Like he's steadily improved over the last few years. Line out accuracy is, I don't know the exact statistics, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty high. And I know Furlong maybe 2 years ago was probably one of the best front rows in the world. Maybe a little bit of a lack of consistency. But I still think he's a standout performer for Ireland. And I mean, I think he's the only Irish guarantee in the team. You talk about squeezing Scots, and I was trying to squeeze Irish people in here.
I'm trying to squeeze. Yeah. I was looking at my team. I have more Scots than Irish people. Just saying.
Well, that shouldn't be the case. I'm sorry, Sam, but that shouldn't be the case.
On the Mako Vinopola point, I think you have to remember who we're going up against. South Africa are extremely physical. It's a long tour. I think you have to have that physical edge in the first test. You really have to front up. I think you start in Vinopola, even if it's the only game, even if he only plays 60 minutes of that test and doesn't play again. I think you want to impose that physicality early on.
Well, as we've learned from the South Africans, this front row should play 55, 60 minutes max.
Max, absolutely max.
And you have to remember as well, like the South Africa are probably going to be having. I mean, you don't really know what way their front row is going to go, right? Because the Beast is retired. So you're thinking that now, look, they're very good at rotating. So you're probably going to have Kirchhoff. What's his name? I can't pronounce it.
Gets his kits off. That's his name.
And then you probably maybe was it Malcolm Marx in the second row, or sorry, at number 2. Like again, one of the most physical players around. It could be Mbambi, I think is the other hooker, but I'm not sure if he's retired or not. So I think you're going to want an experienced, powerful front row going up against him.
Yeah, well, like I kind of just on the same note, like I have Mako Furlong and Cowan-Dickie coming off the bench at around about 50, 55, like a full front 3, and like you've got serious experience and ability coming in with Mako and Furlong and Cowan-Dickie coming off the bench. So I think either way, really, you're either starting with your strongest and going on with Mako, or the reason I went with Sutherland just really off the last Six Nations and because I like him, and a little bit to do with the fact that I'm not sure where Mako is going to be in about a year's time. Would love to see him because he is unbelievable. And if he starts when it is actually picked by Gatland, if he's not taking my advice, if he starts Mako, like happy days, because he's probably the only number 1 that can actually step it up to the South Africans. I saw 1 or 2 people when I was researching this kind of tipped Cian Healy, which I don't think was a bad tip. He doesn't get in, and he doesn't get into this team. I wouldn't be surprised if he travels though. I think he has the scrummaging ability.
A year away. It depends on how he comes back from this injury. There's too many ifs and buts, I think, with Healy at the moment.
Yeah.
Who's your bench, Westy?
My bench is, so I have Sinclair and Sutherland. Kind of same reasons you guys have already said. I think Sutherland is a fantastic player. And again, I think he's probably has a little bit more staying power for the tour as it goes on. But my replacement 16, I don't know why no one else has picked Ken Owens. The Sheriff.
Age? No.
I mean, I think he's still got it. Like, I think, he's pretty in form. I think he's
I don't know, I
really
just
reliable to have there. Like, he played all of the warm-up games in New Zealand. He came off the bench twice. I think he's a pretty consistent performer.
I know.
Yeah,
I just keep thinking of this is going to be like one of the most attritional Alliance tours of all time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's still only be 33, 34. I mean, I think Rory Best was that old when he toured last time with the
Is he
Lions.
not? I thought he was
Is
older.
he? I thought he was already 35 because
I thought he was already 35 as well.
I'm going to look at now because I was looking at this earlier and I kind of went, "Ooh, Ken Owens."
Yeah, I looked at him as well. I thought he was.
He's 33. Sorry.
Yeah.
So
3rd of January.
So
he'll
he'll
be
be
34 next year.
34, yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay, but yeah, I like.
And
I
well,
like him.
with Gatlin choosing, it probably will be Ken Owens.
Yeah, again, I've made a very Gatlin call in the second row because he's going to pick Welsh. He picked 4 Welsh guys because they were near the last tour.
But as Sam had a good point, he's not over Wales anymore.
Yeah, that was my point.
He may not be over Wales, but he ain't over Wales. He ain't over Wales.
There's my snippet for Facebook. Thank once again, Westy, for providing them.
No, like Ken Owens, I don't think he played. I don't think he played a lot in the last Lions tour, but I just think, I don't know. Because I picked George, the English love him. I was a bit unsure. I just think having a more experienced old head to come on the tour is always good.
No, again, there's very few bad choices in this. There's so many great players to pick from.
Very difficult, yeah.
No love for Dylan Lewis, no.
No, I would have gone. I would have gone with Owens, like you were saying. But just when I was going through it, I've seen Cowan Dickey, Jamie George. Like, unfortunately for themselves, the two of them are English, because that's a battle for the next good few years of very, very good hookers.
Yeah, I mean, it probably comes down maybe Dylan Lewis or Cowan Dickey for me for that third hooker spot on the tour.
There is for the third hooker spot. I wouldn't be surprised if a Boulder went to Kelleher if he continues on the trajectory he's on. If he plays playing for another year, absolutely. But right now, no, he wouldn't.
I think if this Six Nations had gone on and finished, then I haven't picked the third hooker, by the way. I don't have one written down.
No, I
think
either.
Had the season gone on and finished, then that might be a more accurate statement, Sam, as you say. But I think right now, I tried to pick on.
Yeah, I'm picking on right now.
Kind of 3 years or kind of.
Yeah, well, we have to pick. If we were picking
I picked
today,
as if the tour was tomorrow. Really.
Yeah, that's what we had. Yeah. All right,
well, these guys might be injured. I'm not sure injury status on a few of them. I've kind of had a bit of a toss up. But.
Yeah, we'll move on to our locks. Sam, do you want to kick us off here again?
Yeah, I know you convinced me otherwise before we started off air, and then I'm gone back on myself now again because no, I can't leave him out. Linwood Jones is in. I'm sorry, I'm not having Ryan. I'm having Jones for the experience, for how good of a player he is, for, like Westy was saying, the fact that the Welsh Gatlin thing, he knows him, he trusts him. He's going to be my captain as well. He's kind of the standout candidate for captain on my team. And I'm putting him beside Itoje because I think Itoje is just sensational. I think he's the potential to be one of the best rugby players in English history if he continues the way he is. He keeps himself kind of motivated to do what he's doing. He's on a big money deal now as well. I love him, and I think that the two of them would dovetail very nicely. I think that would make an extremely solid front five between like Sutherland, George, Sinclair, Linwood Jones, and Itoje. I think Ryan has future tours in him, and that's great. And I think he is unbelievable. He's going to be one of Ireland's best ever second rows. But for the moment, I'm sticking with my boy, Linwood Jones.
No, I'll go next. So no, I disagree. I think this is the easiest two positions there to pick. I've gone with James Ryan and Mario Itoje. Jones is going to be too old. I'm sorry. Again, you're going up against South Africa here, boys.
But look at Jones against South Africa in the World Cup. Did he shy away from anything there? No, he was absolutely fine.
What, 3 tests? I don't know.
You don't have to have the same 15 for each test.
No,
we're picking for the first test.
We're picking the best. We're picking the best team.
You're picking the best for a one-off. If you're picking the best for a one-off test here, you have to have Jones ahead of.
No, I disagree. I don't think it's the same. I think the whole James Ryan in a year or two, I think that's a load of shit now as well. James Ryan has been one of Ireland's best players for the last 2 years. He's not more. His time is coming. His time is here. James Ryan, people are talking about him as a potential Lions captain as well, even for this tour. I think it's a bit too soon for that regard.
I think you need to see him captaining someone else first.
Yes. So I would agree as well. I think it's too soon for captaincy, but I do not think it's too soon for him to play. When it came to physicality against England, he was really one of the few Irish players who showed up. I think him and Itoje together would just be incredible. I would still have Wyn Jones as my captain for the tour, but like this is not. We can't pretend here that this team isn't full of captains around the pitch. Just because Wyn Jones isn't starting doesn't mean there's not going to be leadership on the pitch. So
yeah, I mean, look, so for the record, I've gone with Sam, and I have Alun Wyn Jones tipped as captain. I do think either Itoje. I think Itoje probably could end up being captain. I went with Jones because I think he's Welsh captain. Go to Welsh captain. I just believe.
Yeah, while I had Ryan in there, Itoje was my captain. But
yeah, see, Itoje didn't he captain? He captained the English under-20s championship.
Yeah,
or something?
He did. Yeah.
And like, I mean, you have to you're talking about next year. Look at last year. Alun Wyn Jones was the 2019 Six Nations Player of the tournament. Like, I don't think you can say that he's not at the standard now to play it. I know it's next year. He'll be 35. He might not be. But if we were going tomorrow, yeah, Alun Wyn Jones is my captain by far. And again, I'll go back to the same point I made with Backo Vunipola. This is going to be a really, really physical game. Even if Alun Wyn Jones isn't going to play the full 80, I have Ryan on my bench to come on. So again,
I have Wyn Jones on my bench to come on.
I have Courtney Laws.
I don't think Wyn Jones would be that good of an impact player. I think you're better off having young and hungry like Ryan to come on.
We don't know if James Ryan is a good impact player either. He's always starting.
I'm leaving Westy. I'm leaving Ryan off my bench because I have Wyn Jones.
Just criminal. I'm sorry. I refuse.
Laws covers more positions. I have Laws covering like the back row and the second row. That's why I'm putting him in. Like I need the cover there because I'm going full force in my back row, second row.
See, there you go. We're talking about Itoje Ryan and Wyn Jones in the second row, but like Laws is phenomenal as well. Like
I know he's really good, but he's not the caliber of those three. I don't think at the moment.
No, I think he covers more for me. You see, that's why I have him on the bench. If I was picking a starter between Ryan and Laws, Ryan all day, absolutely. But I just need that cover from my back row and my second row. That's why I have him in there.
Yeah. I would
that physicality as well.
I'm not going with the 6-2 split. I wanted to, but my flyer is a back.
I went 6-2, man. That was my big reveal.
I went 5-3.
Bomb squad.
5-3. I also just an honorable mention to Johnny Gray. Unfortunately, he's probably not going to feature too strongly, but
yeah. And another honorable mention for Big Dev.
It wouldn't be a Master Done podcast without a shout out to Dev. There is water boys needed, so Dev, do apply. You never know, you might get free gear. Who knows? So the majority is going with Itoje and Wyn Jones. That's fair enough. Look, that's fine. I pick. Well, it's my podcast, so what I say goes. So I'll take your valid points and get out of here. Okay, Westy, you can start us off. Give us your back row. This is probably the toughest three.
I'm crying over the players I left behind. I'm not even sure if I'm happy with my back three.
I know, this is the thing. Like
my back row.
The problem with Gallen faces here is he picks. It's such a fine margin. Like he picks three players. He's going to leave out some big names. He has to. There's only so many positions to play. They win, he's a genius. They lose, he's a clown for not picking other players. This is a shitty position to be in.
This is definitely this is probably where we have the most depth.
Yeah.
We've quite good depth in the second row.
Sorry, Wes, just before you start, wasn't every game in the Six Nations this year the man of the match was a back rower?
Yeah, I saw that. That was a stat.
Yeah.
So like that's how every country has depth in this position.
So I've done a 6-2 split on the bench, right? First off, so I made a controversial decision here, but it's because then I went with a 6-2 split to kind of fix it out. So I've gone Underhill, Tipuric, and CJ Stander.
Okay.
Underhill 6, Tipuric 7, CJ at 8, and on a bench I have Hamish Watson and Billy Vunipola.
Okay.
I'm going full bomb squad, bringing on Vunipola for the last 20 minutes, half an hour, 2 crack skulls. I think Underhill, so I'm targeting the breakdown here. Again, it's going to be a physical game, big hits. Turnovers from Underhill are amazing. Tipuric as well. CJ, all great. Competers for the ball, slow it down. I just think Yeah, I think the physicality that CJ brings, he's a workhorse around the pitch. He can do your 80 minutes if you need him to, but you have the option then if you bring Billy Vunipola on at 8, you can move CJ to 6 or 7, and you can bring Hamish Watson in for the other flank. That was kind of my mentality there.
Yeah, no. Again, I have a bit different players, but I've gone with Josh Navidi, Sam Underhill, and Billy Vunipola. That's my back.
I love Josh Navidi.
Yeah, I love him too. I think he's brilliant. Again, yeah, I think target and breakdown. Billy Vunipola isn't, obviously that's not his strongest point, but between Underhill and Navidi, there's not going to be too many rucks that are going to be too safe. I have Hamish Watson on the bench. I kind of have only him at the moment. I'm going for 5-3 split, so Hamish Watson is on my bench. I did have someone else. Did I not? No, I can't remember who it was. But yeah, I think Navidi's just brilliant. Again, workhorse. I've never seen him play a bad game. Underhill has just been so impressive. And again, like Tom Curry is unlucky here not to be mentioned as well.
Yeah.
Incredible at the breakdown as well. But I just think Billy's the best number 8 that will be on this squad. I just think starting him off, I think starting the game, you want to start the game physical, and I think he'll do that for you. So that was my selections. Sam?
I'm gone with Navidi, Underhill, and Curry.
Okay.
I think Billy is, like you said, the best number 8 there. I like the fact that you kind of have Curry and Navidi between the blind side and the 8, either or. I love Curry and Underhill, the way they work together. I think they're ridiculously good. Billy, I haven't seen enough of in the last while. I know he's played with injuries the last while. I think he's an absolutely sensational player. Would not have a problem dropping Curry for him, but I'm going Curry. I like Curry a lot as well. I think a good young player coming in to that Lions could potentially be leading the Lions out the next time. Like what is he at the moment? Is he 22? And then Navidi, like you both said, love the player. He's a great player, brilliant on the deck. Can play across that back row as well, which is extremely helpful. That's why I have Laws on the bench, because I have the 5-3 split, so I have Laws to cover second row and back row. But I had 3 flyers that I was looking at that I'm not including. They're not my flyers, but Jack Willis, Ted Hill, and Adam Wainwright were my 3 flyers, all back row players, all winger or all flankers. So you have like Jack Willis, who plays for Wasps. He's 33 caps, 15 points since 2016. And then Ted Hill, who is highly rated. He's played for England once, played for the under-20s 9 times. He's played for Washington Warriors 33 times since 2017. So we're getting decent stuff he's still only 21. Jack Willis is 22, and Aaron Wainwright is 22 as well. But they're not my flyers, unfortunately. I just want to give them honourable mentions as potentially. I was going with originally the 6-2 split, and one of them would have been my flyer, but I decided to go for a more versatile backline flyer or backline bolter. So I
don't want to be this guy, but did anybody consider Caelan Doris? I was tempted to put him in the squad as a bolter.
I love him. I think he's a great player. I think a bit too early. Didn't get to see enough of him in Six Nations, unfortunately. Has all the potential in the world. Would love to have included him. I just don't think you can drop as a bolter, yes, but don't think you could drop any of the players we've mentioned. And then I also was very close. I just didn't know how to do it. Of picking Faletau, because I still rate him very highly. Like he's
so played with injuries, you know. There's no form to pick him on, really.
That's the same thing with him and Billy Vunipola. Like Billy Vunipola's in and out of teams constantly. I think on his day is the best number 8 in the Northern Hemisphere without doubt. But I just I'm going Curry, Underhill, and Navidi. Curry and Underhill because of how good they are together, and Navidi because I think between Curry and Navidi you have you can interchange between your blind side and your number 8, no problem. Either or is able to do your job depending on if you're defensive or if you're offensive or whatever you're doing. So
that's one of the reasons I went with CJ. Like I just think CJ is he's made of stone. Like he doesn't get injured. He is pretty reliable. I think he's really valuable as a squad player to have on that tour. Even if you don't start him in your games, have him there. I think so much.
What goes well for CJ? I don't have him on my team. I'd like to. I put him in my Irish team the last time, but I think what goes for him for this tour is the South African factor as well.
Yeah.
You see, like, you definitely that'll I think stand to him, the fact that it is to South Africa. It's point to prove. You consider too small. You know, that's why he left South Africa and moved to Munster when he did. So I'd be excited to see him. And like you said, he's so versatile, so he can play anywhere in that back three, no problem. And he doesn't. Yeah, he regularly plays 80 minutes, which isn't something that a lot of players do anymore. Like, there's a lot of substitutions in rugby these days.
I couldn't not mention Peter O'Mahony. It hurt me not to include him in this, but I think, as we said, it's by far the toughest three positions to pick on this team, I think. So,
Jeff, I think it's what you have to look at. Like, I mean, even the tight five, like, so, like, we did mention it before, but like the second rows in South Africa, like, they have a factory that produces second rows. They produce half the second rows in Ireland. Like, it's probably most likely Eben Etzebeth and Lloyd de Jager, but then you've got RG Simon as well. There's another guy I'm forgetting. Anyway. And then you move on to the back row, and you're looking at genuinely, as a unit, one of the best back rows in the world. Sia Khaleesi, Damien Vermeulen, and Peter Steph Toy. And like, I think you need experience, you need strength there. Like, it's a terrifying tight five.
Yeah, it is. I think Navidi is probably the most experienced in my back row. I think you probably, if you're going for it, you need that experience. You definitely would put in Billy Vunipola, without a doubt. He's so much experience and he's so hard to bring down. You're playing against an extremely physical South African side. That's where CJ would definitely flourish. He just doesn't go down. He doesn't get injured that very often. You know, touch wood, and he keeps fighting.
If he gets injured after this,
he keeps fighting for the 80 minutes. You're almost able to argue a point for, like, you know, Leinster's back row, or like an Irish back row, or a Welsh back row, or a English back row. There's so much depth at back row going into this. I don't envy Gatland and having to pick the starting ones and the traveling ones. It's definitely the deepest position by far. Those back row.
Yeah, it's very tough.
You have to think about the number of games as well. I mean, outside of the 3 tests, what is there, 5 other games?
I think it's 5, yeah.
Like, it's a grueling month of rugby. Like, midweek games, Tuesday games, like
high altitude games, which I don't know why. Like, I know there's obviously science behind it, but I remember seeing high altitude games for the first time, and just like the ball traveling differently and players playing differently. It's like, there is a lot to think about when you're planning a tour like this.
But yes, Alan Wynne Jones is going to be fine, apparently.
Yeah, so it's, what is it?
That man is
He's done it before, man.
Yeah, when now he's 30, what is he now, 34, 35?
It'd be 35, I think, at the time. So, it's the first game's in Cape Town against the Stormers, then Port Elizabeth against the Invitational. Cell Sea Sharks in Durban.
By the seashore.
No way I could do that. South Africa A in Nelsprout, Bulls in Pretoria.
Well, you want, that's why you want your, you know, you're not going to be playing, you want to kind of rest the boys you're actually going to be going to battle with in the tests, you know what I mean? So I don't see Wynne Jones, all joking aside, he's not going to play too many of those games.
He's not going to play those games. But I think, I mean, you talk about his age, I think from Wynne Jones, he's been on these tours before, you know what you're going to get from him. Those warm-up games are more for the likes of Ryan to show what he can bring to a Lions team.
Yeah, he's the captain of my squad. I'm not saying like I'm not bringing it.
The one thing I'd like to see a bit more in South Africa at night, like obviously sports science comes into it, coaching comes into it, but one thing that annoys me about some of those midweek games on some of the last few Lions tours has been the amount of tinkering that's gone on, where you haven't seen anything like what will be the starting partnerships, like the starting 9-10 or the starting second rows together in the weeks leading up to it. You've seen so many changes, and then it gets to the first test and it still looks a little bit disjointed. I'd like to see a team kind of develop and get to a point where come the second last game you see a nearly starting 15, even if they only play 30 minutes. You know, you see them start a game, go for it from then. Because I'm like, I remember, I can't remember if it was the last Lions tour before, but there was just constant changing and tinkering around the midweek games and the midweek teams.
But see, in fairness to them, like, and this is a squad like we say as well, you could pick 4 teams, different type of teams out of these. Do you know what I mean? He's trying to see, and you have to give people the chance to try and prove yourself. Like we say that with Ryan, like if he plays 1 or 2 of those starting games and he plays immensely, it's you know, you can play your way into this game, into the starting team.
my argument there, Smurf, is you'd like to see him start with Itoje as opposed to like starting with Wyn Jones and then it actually being between him and Wyn Jones for that position. You know that way? Like that's what the issue I've had is I know everyone has to get their chance to prove themselves, but I want to see partnerships prove themselves. I want to see a 9-10 that starts the first test having played more than one of the previous games together. Like I want to see that partnership having proved itself together.
Speaking of 9-10 partnerships, Sam, give us yours.
Going with Davies and Jack. No, I haven't gone with Jack Carty. Davies and Russell. I went with Finn Russell. I know he's not played for Scotland enough this year. The reason
Westy grimaces.
Russell is in for me because he's exciting. He plays on the edge of insanity, which we've talked about at length on this. We've talked about.
If you could see, he's in brackets there. I'm not grimacing because I disagree with you. I'm grimacing because can you pick him if he's not playing for Scotland?
He's coming back. Is he coming back though? Yeah.
But no, I think in the last year or so, the reason I picked Russell is actually not because I wanted him to start as much as I think Farrell is so versatile on the bench. He covers so much more for you. He's covering your 10 and 12, and he's my only cover center or cover out half on the bench for me. So that's why I'm putting Farrell on the bench, because you can cover your 10, 12, and 13 if you need it. So I'm going with Russell, and because he's exciting, he throw the ball around. He's going to get the ball out to the two big lads at center, which I can't wait for.
I think we're all going to have university the same 12-13 partnership, but we'll get there.
I'm so excited.
Sorry, you have
Davies and Finn Russell.
And who then is your? So you Farrell on the bench.
I have Farrell and Cooney on the bench.
Farrell and Cooney on the bench. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Okay, Westy.
Yeah. So, look, I'm probably gonna go with Russell as well. I think he's the most exciting out half going, and I've done the 6-2 split, right? So for that reason, I then probably have Farrell on the bench to cover, unless you have Cooney on the bench, because he can also cover 10. So
I don't agree with this cover 10 thing, okay? This is a fallacy. Everyone talks about it because it was mentioned somehow with the Irish camp thing. Cooney played 10 for one game in Connacht when they were stricken down to the bare bones. Played all right, but he has absolutely no experience at 10. And none of us have ever seen him except for that game playing at 10. He kicks. Doesn't make him a 10.
Well, I mean, if he can kick, then it means you can have someone else slot into that 10 slot.
A nerve there, Westy.
Just get back in my box, I guess.
No, I love John Cooney as a player. I love him as a player, but I started seeing it in the news when they were talking about it for the Irish World Cup squad. They're like, "Oh, Cooney can cover 10. He played there for Connacht." He played there once for Connacht.
I know, but you don't know what. You know, in training he might have been playing more than 10. I know he hasn't played in game, but doesn't mean he can't do it.
It's not just about him covering 10.
Cover for a 10.
I know.
It's not just about him covering 10, like as a 10. It means if you have to have somebody else that in a 10, you can defer your kicking to Cooney. It gives you another option. It means you can play around with that 10, 12, 13 channel a little bit if you like.
Yeah, I get that.
I found scrum half really difficult.
Yeah, it's tough.
If I want to stick with what I've kind of gone with for the rest of my team, I kind of have to go with Thomas Williams.
Okay.
Just because I think he's the on-form scrum half in the Six Nations from the home nations. But I do think Gareth Davies is probably better. So I don't know if I'm going to stick to my own rules here and pick a player who is playing well. So I probably will go with Thomas Williams because he at the minute is playing well, although as recently as the World Cup, Davies is probably better. Yeah.
And you have then Farrell on the bench as well.
Are you talking about Webb, not Williams?
No, Thomas Williams played.
Thomas Williams, yeah.
Rhys Webb as well, yeah, but Rhys Webb didn't play much in Six Nations.
Oh, okay, sorry, I'm Thomas Williams.
Thomas Williams, I think.
Yeah, it's Tomos.
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 But no,
there
probably it probably is Gareth Davis.
Yeah, I've gone with.
If he's fit.
I went with Thomas Williams too, Westy.
Okay.
Nice.
And I've also gone. I've gone with Farrell at 10. Just because I don't like England. I've been very open about that before, but Farrell is built for this sort of shit. He's big, he's physical, and he loves the moment.
100%.
I want him taking my kicks. If my life depended on it, I'd probably have him taking my kicks pretty much over anyone in the world. I can't think of a better place kicker. Am I missing someone obvious?
Well, Dan Carter sitting on the Blues.
Oh, the Blues, yeah. Sorry, yeah. As of this morning, the Blues player, yeah. I think he rises to these occasions a lot. We've seen that in the last Lions tour. So I have him as my 10. I have Cooney on the bench. I was contemplating having Russell on my bench as well, but I'm not. I have one more sub. Well, I have two more subs, but one of them is my X Factor player. So Cooney's on my bench. Again, he can cover 9 and he can cover 10. Don't look at Sam. And he can cover kicking duties as well. So that's what I've gone with.
Yeah, just in terms of like if you were going for backup, I went with Farrell because of the 10-12 as my backup and Russell to start.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like you said, I'd happily have Farrell start. He's probably starts ahead of Russell if I was able to have unlimited subs. No problem about that because I think Farrell will start you off with the right tempo. He's a good leader. He commands his team extremely well. He doesn't walk out on teams in the middle of Six Nations tournaments, which is another thing that probably stands to.
That's the concern I have with. So I have Farrell kind of / Russell here at 10 because
so
again,
Gregor Townsend is an over the lines team. It's all good. It's all good.
Be involved. So you don't know.
Yeah. It depends on Gatlin's beer limit rules. Like we need to question these things.
Yeah. Imagine Russell rocks up and like, oh lads, we have a new assistant coach. Then walks Gregor Townsend.
I think at the minute, I think if you have Finn Russell, like as brilliant as Finn Russell is with the ball, and as you say, like Sam, he plays on the edge of insanity. He's so creative. I think, especially if you're starting someone like Thomas Williams at 9, like I really lack a leader in my back five or my backs here.
Yeah, Farrell does bring that to you. Farrell is probably the best choice.
Is Russell's play style suited well to South Africa?
I think offensively, yes. I think defensively, he falls well below Farrell in terms of how strong in the tackle Farrell is. Farrell is almost like another centre on defence, and then
imagine how good he'd be if he wrapped his arms as well.
Oh my god, yeah. But no, Farrell's tackling ability, he's not going to be run over the channel the way other out halves might. Russell is not bad tackling, but I think offensively, Russell adds that little bit of insanity, little bit of X factor, that little bit of keeping them guessing that I think could open them up a little bit, because the last thing you want to do is get into an attritional battle with South Africa because you're going to lose. I think you do need to play expansive open, and South Africa are well capable of doing it, but keeping them guessing will definitely help, and Russell brings that to you tenfold. And then with our probably unanimous centre partnership, it could be a bit of crack as well, because they're both very good.
I'll go first with the 12-13 partnership. So I've gone with Darcy and O'Driscoll. I've gone with Stuart McCluskey and Tom Farrell. No, I've gone with Bundy.
Tom Farrell. I've got Tom Farrell.
Tom Farrell is definitely, physicality-wise, definitely. I've gone with Bundy and Manu because, let's be honest, who wouldn't want to see that? Just like we've seen them, that small clip in Ireland, England, when there was a row going on and they were just like having a laugh beside each other. They were like, look at these idiots. They have no idea what physicality is. So that's what they looked like they were doing. So I want that as my starting 12-13. I think they obviously are friendly towards each other. They have a good bond. I don't think it would take long for them to learn how they play. I don't see why not. You were saying a while ago, why not? You were saying it won't happen, but why not? Who says no?
I think that's my centre partnership as well. I'd love to see it. I like the fact that both of them can be used in both a battering ram or a playmaker sort of way. Bundy is criminally underrated for his playmaking ability. I think he's seen as a battering ram by players that have only seen the TG Guard highlights and the Ireland Six Nations games. Under a different coach, Bundy would be given a lot more license. We saw it under Pat Lam. We've seen it under Andy Friend. Didn't see much of it under Kieran Keane, but we didn't see much positive under Kieran Keane. But I think the two of them, interchangeable at 12, 13, getting it out the back line, running hard, tackling hard, protecting Russell in my team as well, which I think is there. The problem I have is I think realistically there is a presence of just still not getting Bundy on the internet. You see it like people suggesting he be in it, and they're talked down completely, and then people are suggesting Henshaw, which I think completely one-dimensionalizes that team if you're going to put him at 12 instead of Bundy. And then Ringrose, there's an argument for it. I'm just not in the camp. I think he's a great player, but I just don't think he's that starting for the Lions material.
Are you taking Ringrose on your tour?
I'd take him on the tour, yeah. I was considering him instead of Farrell as my kind of versatile back cover, because I do think he covers, if you want him to, right across the back line. Yet to see it really at 10, but they were saying at Six Nations. But
that's what I was thinking in terms of like saying Cooney is kind of the 10 option. So if you have Cooney at 9 and then you want to move someone like Ringrose into 10, by taking away that kind of like letting Cooney run the game from 9, you take away that pressure off somebody slotting into the 10 channel.
Absolutely, yeah. I think between Bundy and Manu, it was for me a no-brainer. For me, starting against a South African team that are going to want to play physical, it's an absolute no-brainer. I'd love to see it. I think, like you said, Smurf, they definitely they strike up a bond. A lot of the lads, the Island Heritage lads playing in the league, tend to be they gravitate towards each other after games. They know each other quite well. They pray after games, they embrace each other and stuff. And then you see them nearly beating the head off each other in the games.
Yeah.
They're kind of, they have a great attitude towards the game. They both play with big smiles on their face, unless Bundy is telling you to go fuck yourself or something.
Maybe he's going to help me. Remember the Flying Ducks? What was the duo?
Mighty Ducks.
The Mighty Ducks.
The Bash Brothers.
The Bash Brothers. That's what I imagine when I see these two on a pitch together.
The problem with that is that's what I was calling my Underhill and Curry.
No, like definitely too laggy. It's definitely too laggy and knacky. I agree. Henshaw, I need to see more. Like realistically, he had one good game in Six Nations where he was like, "Oh, that looks like the old Henshaw." But again, I need to see more of that. Ringrose isn't about, like, Ringrose has done nothing really wrong, but at the same time he hasn't stood out either, and I think he'll go on the tour for sure, but I wouldn't have him starting. Westy, I'm assuming you're in agreement with us.
Yeah, well, look, so I mean, I don't know. I think I'm a bit up in the air in kind of how this is going to work exactly, but if I was going to start Russell, I probably would want to have Farrell in at 12. I just kind of think you need that kind of line management. But let's say, for argument's sake, I mean, like, I'd pay any money to see Bundy and Manu in the centre. The problem I think there, and not to kind of generalise here, is that if you start both of those lads at 10 and 12 and you've got a Bash Brothers mentality, one of those lads is spending at least 10 minutes in the sin bin. Like, it's happening. Like, they'll get carried away. They're lovable little scamps. One of them will have a slip.
Yeah, they'll be trying to outdo each other. Like, oh, yeah, you nearly ended his career. Watch me end this guy's career.
Like, I think, I almost think for the same reasons that you'd be stupid not to have Bundy in an Ireland camp, I think it's criminal to overlook him in a Lions tour, because we've seen time and time again. We've seen it in Connacht. We've seen it in Ireland. He can play. He can adapt to anybody outside him. He feeds great ball to his 13. Okay, maybe for number of reasons, he's overused as a battering ram, and that doesn't work. And that's what people see. And as Sam said, with the right coach, that wouldn't necessarily be the case. I think, in a way, Aki moved into that O'Driscoll space. I'm not saying he's as good as O'Driscoll, but in that Schmidt just didn't know how to use him. But whereas O'Driscoll had that clout where O'Driscoll could play his own game, but then once O'Driscoll went, the centre partnership changed a lot under Schmidt.
Yeah, the centre dynamic under Schmidt has been a Basham 12.
Yeah, 100%.
I was watching the replay of Connacht Toulouse there the other day. I texted you about it, West. Like, Henshaw is playing at fullback, and he is a twig of a man compared to what he is now. But he was so strong running. He was so creative. He was so fast. And I don't think he has anymore, because I think under Schmidt, the idea was to make him into a battering ram. And then when Bundy came along, they were like, okay, we'll put Bundy in as a battering ram, Henshaw as a backup battering ram, or outside Bundy when needs be. And I think that that's the wrong way to go with these sort of players. Just because they have the capabilities of running hard at you doesn't mean they have to do it every time. Bundy is regularly making big line breaks in the sports ground and offloading, or bringing people in around the back, or playing as a second playmaker on the other side of the scrum. We saw it a little bit in the Six Nations as well. They used him as a second playmaker once or twice, and he makes it great. And I think that under a coach that understands him, and uses them properly, I think that's like where he could flourish.
I think as well, if you're going to have Bundy and Manu, like they both have equal claim to that battering ram job. So like, how are you gonna crowd in on the 12 and try and shut down the ball going wide? When if you do that, you leave Manu Tuilagi open. Like,
yeah. And then on top of your point about Bundy being able to play with anyone outside him, another thing that I just, from a Connacht point of view, from watching him and from an Ireland point of view, he is seemingly absolutely brilliant in camp. Like Jerry Thornley's book about the year we won it, he was, buying everyone coffee and croissants and stuff when they were delayed in Russia. You see, after we won it in 2016, they were doing like Samoan chants and stuff on the plane. The Ireland team were doing that after his first game. Like that's not because they're trying to kind of go, oh, look, Bundy, we're simulating to him. It's because Bundy is that influential guy. He's that nice a guy. He's that good around the camp that people gravitate towards that and accept that. And you see it on the pitch, like he's regularly leading things, even if he's not the captain. He's regularly leading chants. He's regularly leading people. He's a big motivator. So I think you have to have him on the tour. Like,
I think he's, you talk about him on the pitch. We hero worship Bundy a lot on this. I don't want to flog a dead horse, but I mean, when he does give away a penalty, like he's the kind of player he puts his hand up and he's like you can see the heartbreak in his face. He owns up to it. Like, he doesn't argue with refs.
No.
Sometimes.
Not always.
Sometimes you get
I got to stop myself there. I was like, oh, he don't know what the choice.
Only when the refs are wrong. That's when he argues. I think most people would admit that that's the partnership they want to see, just because it would be fantastic. But look, we'll move on. Right, our two wingers. Westy, you could start this one.
So I went with Adams and Watson.
Okay.
I'm going with speed. I want explosive wingers.
I've gone with this was tough, but I went with Watson and I've gone with Johnny May. He had a really good Six Nations.
Yeah.
I went with Adams and Watson, but of my crossed out names, May, Daly, and Cokanasingwa, who I think would have been an excellent shout for this tour. I'd love to see him there because of what he could bring in terms of, you said Bundy, Manu, and Cokanasingwa. Just physically, aerially, speed, he'd be brilliant. But I went with Adams and Watson just off the form, off the ability, off what I know they can do. And with Russell dictating, putting it in behind, playing with a bit of flair, you get the best out of the two of them as well.
So this is the question: is Stockdale coming on this tour?
Not for me, no.
I wouldn't cross him off. I think he definitely has the potential to be on the tour. If you think size-wise, that was
size-wise,
he's a big man. Like,
yeah, no. I think how many wingers are you bringing? 5, 6
on the whole tour?
Yeah,
probably bring a 6, but like English wingers alone, 3, 4. Almost.
Yeah, England wingers are very strong.
Stockdale 2 years ago, without a doubt, would be going on my tour. But we've changed the way we play. He, I think, has regressed because of that. His defense has been so sketch, and I know that might be a system problem, but it's being shown through him. So unfortunately, I have to judge him on it. He missed times coming up out of the line. He missed times his intercepts that were so effective for him for his first year or two on the international scene. Don't get me wrong, when he gets going, he gets going. But he hasn't done it for me this season yet. And if we were going on form, I wouldn't bring him personally.
Yeah, again, as we said, if you're picking today, I don't think he can bring him.
See, I think as well, if you're looking at who's he going to come up against, right? So again, most likely wingers he's going to come up against is what? Mapimpi and Cheslin Colby.
Yeah,
like you need speed. Power is going to be good in the wing, but if he doesn't have his timing right, his positioning right, he's going to be left for dust.
If he misses an intercept against either of them, you're done.
You don't want to have a bad defensive day against them too. Let's just say that.
No,
we know Stockdale has those days. So
yeah, he has had unfortunately quite a lot of them recently. It might be because he's learning a new system, and that's very unfortunate to judge him on an inability to grasp a new system straight away. Like it could come good for him before the Lions tour, and he could be back to the Stockdale of 2 years ago. And if he is, then I don't think you can question putting him on it. But if I was to pick an Irish winger right now, and it was between any of them, you'd probably have to go Earls ahead of Stockdale, or and I don't want to ruin your flyer, Smurf, so I'm going to keep it to myself.
Oh yeah.
I have another few ideas.
What about King Conway?
I think Conway will be very unlucky not to go, especially if you keep. See, the problem is that I don't think Conway has the clout yet that say Stockdale had kind of a meteoric rise in terms of the international circuit. So you'd say, like Stockdale kind of has to find his form again to go. Whereas I just don't know if I think Conway has done enough, and I'd love to see him.
Yeah, I think again, you're not going to fault him for effort. Like he's going to be again. Haven't seen him play bad.
He needs to maintain that. He needs to maintain what he's been doing for the next year and be consistent because he has had injury problems in the past.
Yeah,
he needs to be consistent.
He probably needs to score tries. Like that's Stockdale because everyone knew him because he scored 9 tries in 6 games, something ridiculous.
So I think there's space for both of them. Really, I think. I at the minute I'd bring Conway, but I think you probably could get Stockdale in as well if you go Adams, Watson, May, Stockdale, Conway.
You leaving out Daly,
and maybe
leaving out
George North,
and one that he isn't my flyer or my bolter, but I'll just mention James Lowe will be qualified and will have played.
That's a really good one. Yeah. That's a really good one.
If you want to bring someone who brings physicality and size, like
he's nearly the perfect player to go to South Africa with.
Yeah, he's not.
he's fast, ridiculously physical, and will love it.
Yeah, he's not my bolter, but I just thought you'd mention him. I think Conway probably has more of a shout than Stockdale right now. If you were to pick one Irish winger, I'd say Earl's probably I'd
pick Conway, and I'm a massive Earls fan. But if I'm bringing one Irish winger, it's got to be Conway.
But see, you know me, I'm not big on Earls really, but I just think at the moment in terms of defensively and in terms of his how well he's doing on form, I think it's very close between the two of them. But I think Earls has just maybe got a bit more claim to it right now. I'd like to see any of them really.
As we said before, if we can get a couple of Irish lads on this call, it'll be great. We're struggling at the moment.
Yeah. My bolter is Wesley, and I want you to disagree.
But full back.
Oh, sorry, my bolter is a winger.
We're talking about this.
But
Liam Williams.
Oh, I've gone Stuart Hogg. Williams is a good shout, but I think
me and Sam were chatting about this. I somehow forgot Stuart Hogg existed.
I mean, if you don't have Hogg, who's going to drop your game-winning try over the line?
Too soon.
You need that drama.
Too soon. But I do have on the bench. I went with Williams, but Stuart Hogg actually should go. Lee Halfpenny.
Nice.
Covers a couple of positions, can kick the ball. One of the best kickers I've ever seen, like a fucking arrow. And again, Gatlin loves him, so I have him on my bench. Stuart Hogg, and then do you have cover on the bench?
Well, I have cover for full-back wing. He's my bolter. It's Darcy Graham. I was talking to you about this before.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
I was talking to you about
this before.
He has 7 caps over a few years for Scotland. So I'm just going to get it up here. I think it's 7 caps over 2 years for Scotland. So I'm going to say that he still counts as a bolter.
We said a couple of caps, so that's fine.
Yeah, he's not uncapped, which I'll give. But he, even if I was just looked on YouTube, there's a half an hour highlights video of him. He is just pace, power, scoring tries, brings the game in through the 12 channel, through the 13 channel, which is something I love to see fullback do. And he plays in the wing, so he covers my wing or fullback, which means I have Farrell covering 10, 12, potentially doing a bit of a shuffle around to get that 13, Cooney covering 9, 10, and and wing, and then Darcy Graham covering wing fullback. So I have my whole back line covered with 3 of them.
I just want to point. I just caught a fly.
Nice.
Eat it.
I am Bruce Lee. My wild card is Robert Balakoon.
Love it. It was this close.
22, 7s experience, 0 caps, but some for the Ireland Sevens.
He was in the Ireland camp for the Six Nations.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, it was. As prospect players. He's, as Conor McGregor would say, he's a long, rangy motherfucker. So basically, he's a big fucking unit. He's pacey, exciting player. So yeah, that would be my wild card. Westy, give us your one.
Well, I guess Cooney doesn't count as a wild card anymore.
Does he though? Because
I think he's
by definition,
minutes wise, he does not. He's not an established international player.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going by caps, he does count.
But see, I think the idea of a bolter is more someone that's not like solid, like definitely solidified down a place. Like Cooney is without a doubt in the question for starting, if not on the bench, definitely touring at the moment if he continues on the trajectory he is. Which means I don't think you can consider him that bolter the way Earls was when he went. Like when Earls went, it was like the first time it was like, this guy has all the potential in the world, but who knows what's going to come, and you kind of just let them play their way. Caps wise, minutes wise, definitely Cooney doesn't have the experience and could be considered a bolter. But I just think he's too almost got the position.
Yeah, he's too well known. He's 29,
30.
He's 30 now, is he? Okay. So Westy, if you're not allowed Cooney, who are you going with?
Well, see, again, if you're not allowed Cooney, I mean, you're going to make the same. See, I'd have to rechange my team.
No, you can't go through your change. Just pick.
No, I'm not going to do that. But I mean, I see. The thing is, Larmour could count as well as your bolter.
No, I don't think so.
He's an established international at this stage.
Yeah.
He's also the greatest player in the world. So.
Also, I don't think he's going. Personally, I don't think he's defensively good enough for a fullback against South Africa. Maybe on the wing, but I wouldn't bring him as a fullback. Not a chance.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think he'll go
as a wing though. Like I think.
Again, he can cover. As you say, they're going to be looking for people who can cover a couple of positions.
Yeah, he can cover, and if you have him on the bench, that's fine. But genuinely, like I've said it on the show a few times, by the end of his career, I think we'll look back and say, and if someone comes along, I want to prerequisite this, but someone else needs to exist for this to happen. But I think that by the end of his career, he will have played more on the wing than he did at fullback. I think he's exciting enough to play wing, but against a team that's in any way under pressure, I don't think he plays fullback.
Yeah. Westy, can I give you a suggestion for one?
Go on. I mean, you can tell me as many as you want.
Yeah, a little known player is Dave Kearney.
What about Will Addison? If Will Addison can stay fit, if Will Addison can stay fit for 12 months, I take him as my bolter. Again, he has a lot of cover, centre, fullback.
Yeah, no, I'll allow Addison. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, Addison.
I mean, I would have said like, so I kind of had Cooney. I also have James Lowe written down. But if you're going to say that Cooney doesn't count, I would say by the same logic, Lowe kind of can't count either because he's not really a shock.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
he would have played. The one I'm trying to look for now, really quickly, is who's the English guy that qualifies later this year? South African English lad. He's playing for Gloucester. I find it here for you now.
Yeah, while you're doing that, Sam, just a couple of notes. We didn't even mention Conor Murray, lads.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that that's become the case for Conor Murray, I think. Ruan Ackerman. So he's going to qualify for England later this year. He's playing for Gloucester, plays as a flanker. He looks like...
Rowan Atkinson, is it? Mr. Bean?
Ruan Ackerman.
No, but I think, I don't know, I think... in the case of Murray, like I definitely haven't written him off. There's definitely, again, 2 years ago, one of the best scrum halves in the world, if not the best. But I think now you are literally going up against the best scrum half in the world at the moment, Faf de Klerk.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, what do you do? I mean, I don't think Ben Youngs is there.
No.
Again,
Ben Youngs, scrum half is one of the weakest spots of England. So Ben Youngs not doing it.
From Wales, you could say, like, you're not going to bring Laidlaw. Ali Price, you know,
again, it's
possible.
Laidlaw's back.
Is he back?
Back.
You know, you could go with Ali Price. I think that'd be a good shout. That'd probably be a good bolter again. He doesn't really have that. He's not that well established at the moment. You know, I went with Thomas Williams on form, but it could be Gareth Davis. Like the position is there.
Rhys Webb.
Yeah.
Like
I think it's the most open position we have, and I really think it's criminal if Cooney isn't given the platform because he is probably best primed to take that spot now.
Well, yeah, he needs Six Nation games next year, or whenever it goes ahead, or if it goes ahead.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, he needs Six Nation games. He needs potential games if there is some sort of November international of any sort. He needs that. He needs to be given the platform to prove himself. Murray hasn't in the last year, be it through injury, be it through wear and tear, whatever it is. He hasn't been the Murray of the past. The one thing I'll give to him, I'm not going to bring him. I don't personally think if he continues playing the way he has done for the last while, he's anywhere near the team, but he does bring a bit of size. If he got back to any bit of form, it would be helpful to have that bit of size at 9. But I think it's Cooney's position. Like the Irish job is Cooney's at the moment, really.
I don't know if you've been chatting to Andy Farrell lately, but
it needs to be his. I think that it's interesting because I still, from an Irish point of view, not from a Lions point of view, but I still really rate Marmion. And I know I might seem biased, but Marmion has never put a foot wrong for Ireland or Connacht. And I think that
no, but he's not. He's not.
No, but oh no, I'm not talking about from a Lions point of view. But I'm talking about from a Cooney getting experience at 9 point of view. I don't actually see there being too much argument against Marmion and Cooney battling it out whilst Murray's getting back into any sort of form, because Marmion has played extremely well for Ireland in extremely big games on numerous times, was brought ahead of people in the past to Six Nations when people didn't see it. I think Cooney needs to solidify the Irish position before the Lions tour if he's to be considered the starter, I think, personally.
I mean, the fact that Marmion isn't really included in the conversation anymore is ridiculous. You're talking about the scrum half who played the full 80 minutes the second ever time Ireland beat the All Blacks, and he's just completely forgotten about.
This is not an Ireland discussion, boys. This is a Lions discussion.
Okay, back to it.
Yeah, but
keep your Connacht bias issues out of this.
Okay, well, by that argument, then Cooney is a bolter because he's not an established international for Ireland. All we're trying to say here, Smurf, is that like there are like Cooney is kind of the obvious choice now. There is an interesting question mark over Kieran Marmion in that if he had the platform, could he get to the Lions team? Does he have that in him? I think he does, definitely.
Yeah,
Will he get there now? Probably not.
Well, no. If Cooney can't get past Murray, there's no chance of Marmion getting past him. In Andy Farrell's mind, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right now, yeah.
How about this for a bolter, Sam? Quaylen Blade.
Ooh, Blade.
Yeah.
I was going to suggest the most criminally undercapped player in Ireland right now, but Matt Healy.
I thought you were going to go TOH.
Well, TOH in the last years.
West, I'm so disappointed you didn't go with that one. Just in case anyone's wondering who that is, it's Tiernan O'Halloran.
The last year or two, he hasn't been up to the standard that he set himself. But I think Matt Healy.
That's injury as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But Matt Healy has been, I know he's been a little bit injured the last year or two, but he's been playing for Connacht for 9 years now. He's consistently excellent. He's been regularly like the top try scorer. He's the top try scorer for Connacht. The fact that he has his like 2 Irish caps is an absolute farce.
What about John Klein?
If you want to bring physicality, like
he's South Africa as well, isn't he?
I can see him going on the tour. You're going to bring what? You're going to bring 5 second rows. So Itoje, Wyn Jones, Ryan. You're going to be Jake Ball, maybe.
Laws.
Johnny
Laws
Gray.
Is back row or second row? Or second row? Back row or second row.
I bring him as a second row. Really, like he plays back row, but I think he's second row.
I don't know. Klein has to have a serious year next year to be consideration, I think. I think he plays very well.
The Munster second row is about to destroy the Pro 14. You're talking about John Klein and RG Simon. That is terrifying.
Yeah, I know. But I don't think it's not going to be enough for him to do it in Munster. He needs to be regularly playing for Ireland, which I don't know. Who knows?
It's
also, a noticeable player we didn't mention, Dan Biggar.
Biggar, yeah.
Thought you were going to go with Johnny Sexton, no?
Oh shit! Yeah.
Not one of us mentioned Sexton. I thought you were being sarcastic there. I thought that was a bait and switch.
No, because I was chatting to Sam yesterday about it. I was like,
Oh, were you chatting away the two of you? I wasn't invited.
We went to the driving range. To hit a few balls.
Remember when me and you used to go to the driving range?
You're in Ballina. What do you want me to do?
There's a driving range in Ballina. Drive on down. We'll go to the range.
Yeah. Okay. Have you laughed?
But I think.
No, we were talking about. That's probably why it's like we've already discussed it. But I don't see how you can start.
No.
Bench.
No. If his captaining improves from what we've seen of it, he would be a good person to bring along. Because I think the more leaders you have going on a Lions tour like this, the better. Like I do think that. I don't have him ahead of Farrell or Russell really. And then even like
Russell is. I don't know. I think. I don't know. I'm not convinced by Russell with this kind of tour.
But see, I think, I get what you're saying about Russell, but I think you don't want to bring 3 players who play the exact same brand. So I would
That's
think
fair. Yeah, that's fair.
I would think now. Look, I probably, for argument's sake, right? I know you could say it's up in the air for me between Bigger and Anscombe, really.
I think Bigger.
I'd
But
go
anyway,
Bigger.
I would go. You could go. I would probably bring Farrell, Russell, and Sexton because Farrell and
Sexton
Sexton are
ain't
similar
growing,
players. And I think Farrell edges Sexton out in that. But then, I don't see why you'd bring Sexton on to replace Farrell or Farrell on to replace Sexton. But you would maybe bring Russell or have one of them replace Russell because that's changing the way you play your background. I think that's the same thing that's why you're bringing Cooney, right? Because he's going to be another leader from the 9 channel.
Yeah,
he does something different as well. Like I like that point about you'd never have Farrell starting with Sexton on the bench. You'd have Farrell start with Russell on the bench, or Russell start with Farrell on the bench.
Yeah.
And Russell
Well, I mean,
you
could always have, as I say, Sexton at 10, Farrell and Farrell to Laggy maybe, or
I think you're right. You don't want to be in a situation where you're halfway through the second test and you're a test down. You're like, okay, this isn't working, and you're looking at your bench and it's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So that makes such
an older, slower version of the same thing.
Who doesn't get on with refs.
As Sam said, like these warm-up games are about building kind of partnerships and looking at different combinations you can set up for different ways that you can play. And I think, we talk about how physical this test is going to be. I think how we can change our point of attack and our backline is going to be so crucial. Like if we can target a point in the second half where we're going, okay, plan A is not working, we're going to play a much looser game from the back line or from our backs. I mean, if you can get that to work against South Africa, it'd be great.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year before then anyway, like because you've got between the Pro 14 haphazardly starting and coming back and what's going to happen behind closed doors games, the Premiership, the way that's going to work. Like there's a lot of players that mightn't get the opportunity to improve themselves on the big stage that they need to get on the plane. Usually you use the year before to see how they do it under pressure, big games, in front of big, visceral crowds in Twickenham on the last day of the Six Nations. But that might not happen this year. It might be reduced capacity crowds or behind closed doors games for the first half of the season. So players might get quite comfortable in playing in quietness and not be tested the way that you just want to see how they react to pressure and that sort of thing. So there could be a few players that haven't proved themselves yet, they don't get the opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, even to be ultimately pessimistic, there's no guarantee this Lions tour is going ahead next year.
I know. Let's not talk about that.
Not even from
the world is bumming me out enough these last week, West. You don't make it worse.
Not even from because of the coronavirus, but you have to look at sport being pushed back. Like the Lions tour is now going to be competing with the Olympics. They might move it. They might move it to
watch it anyway. Rugby fans, no proper rugby fans will be like, "Oh, this Lions tour's on."
Sevens, man.
But I want to go watch the second pole vault.
Yeah, Balakoon might not be able to go to the Lions tour. He might be going to the Olympic Sevens.
That's true.
You're right.
But even
the wild card's gone.
Smurf, my point's not just like that. It might not happen, but they might move it to like September. It might be pushed. So that could give more time. That gives then kind of a World Cup atmosphere where you now have an autumn international as well to get your Lions ticket.
Yeah, that's good. That's good discussion. I think, as I said before, all of our teams are good teams. It's just whether or not they're going to have enough for South Africa.
As well as that, it's just like leaving people behind. No way in hell would I take that job.
Yeah, I know it's tough, man. That is tough. It'd be interesting to see. I am really interested to see if his Wales bias is still there.
I don't think it'll be as much a bias as it's warranted. I think the Welsh team, outside of like a really unfortunate result in the World Cup where I thought they had it won, they're an extremely good team that have just regularly in the last couple of years competed at the highest level, won Grand Slams loads of times, like far more than we have. So I don't think it'd be.
I'm not saying we're better. Trust me.
I'm just saying I don't think it is. This time will be as much bias as it will be warranted. I think that any Welsh player picked can put his hand up and say, "I deserve to be in the position I'm in." Really, I think that they're so strong.
That's fair. So he doesn't pull that geography shit again. I'm still angry at it, man.
All right, lads. Thanks for joining me. We'll wrap it up there. We're just over the hour mark, so that was nice and pretty short for normally our podcast. So, thanks. Looking forward to hopefully next year a Lions tour. Let us know.
When are we booking our flights?
you can book and pay for mine, and I'll be on the plane.
And I'm going anyway. I don't care what you guys are doing. I'm going.
Yeah, I know you are. I know you. You'll be our reporter on the ground. Yeah, man on the grounds in Africa. Just
still waiting on all those tapes I recorded in Japan to get here, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just all you hear is pub noise and. Yeah, thanks for joining me. Let us know on Twitter where you think we went wrong. I'm sure you didn't agree with everything that we said.
I'm sure there's the ridiculous lack of Irish players in my team. I have more Scotsmen than I do Irishmen on my starting 15.
Well, again, we're picking them on today's form, and it's tough to really make some warrant for players. But let us know on Twitter. My Twitter is @none_podcast. Instagram and Facebook is also Master None, and this will be going up on YouTube. Subscribe to me over there. We'll put up the videos there. It'll be going up tomorrow. Tomorrow will be today. Tomorrow. So, thanks lads for joining. We'll see you again next week.
Chat to you then.